Hi, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Poem Praise 2 and Peace be upon you and blessings too. Now let's get right back into the Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man. We are in take number 64. The chapter is 12, which is leadership. And it goes like this. The conclusion. Mr. Douglas believed in intermingling with whites, sought donations and recognition from them, and often traveled abroad to instigate friendships. He believed that if the black man obtained the right to vote, that he could use the ballot to change his position in American society. He constantly went before white politicians to plead for civil and social opportunities for Negroes. He staunchly believed in the validity of the Constitution and believed it to contain the foundation from which change could be enforced. He was proud to be invited and involved in American politics. Douglas had no plan for the Negro to use to help himself economically. He thought that if the Negro was unhampered by lynchings and unwarranted attacks by whites, that they would seek out employment for themselves. As a matter of priority, he wanted them to have congressional representation and legislative authority. He kept his slave master's name and was not concerned with linking himself in any way to the Negro's African past or traditions. He made no mention of holidays or celebrations to retain the Negro's heritage, and attached no special meaning to being black, other than that it was a negative stigma resulting from slavery and continuing racism. Frederick Douglass is most remembered for his proud psyche and beautiful facial features. His speeches, especially his major narrative, are recorded in many history books and studied. He sired 2 sons, but there is little information about the continuation of his political ideas by his 4 children. He was an impressive, strong, and diligent black man leader who retired with his greatest memory being his failure to convince whites that the Negro deserved full citizenship rights in America. The Caucasian women he married preserved his papers, souvenirs, and documents for study by historians. His children did not approve of his marriage to a white woman. Despite Douglas' tedious pleas for civil rights for blacks, the black man today is still negotiating for a Civil Rights Act from the American government. Every few years, this bill comes up for discussion, reconsideration, and debate. The black man still does not completely benefit from the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Each new president is confronted with the sensitive task of deciding whether or not being forced to accommodate blacks. He did not include the Indians in public. Privately owned places is constitutional. Douglas was appalled to find that in 1858, when questioned in the South about his position on Negro-white affairs, that Lincoln proudly alluded, "I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. I am not, nor ever have been in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. And I will say in addition to this that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. And inasmuch as they cannot so live while they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior. As much as any other man, am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race. This clip is from the Lincoln-Douglas debate of 1858, when in the North Lincoln, as politicians do, adjusted his views for his audience and held fast to the Declaration of Independence, which viewed all men as equal. For many years, African American children were taught that Lincoln freed the slaves and that he felt special compassion for their condition. It was implied to them by educators that Lincoln fought for the rights of blacks and was on their side and should be honored and remembered for his efforts. It was a misrepresentation of the truth, an outright lie. Mr. Douglas and Mr. Lincoln were associates. Booker T. Washington, 1856 to 1915, was born as a plantation slave in Virginia. He qualified and became founder and president of Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute in Alabama. He called for Negro self-improvement geared toward being independent. He believed that the only way that blacks would advance was through industrial education, small business, and hard work. He is most famous for his Atlanta Exposition Address in 1895, wherein he made what were considered counter-revolutionary statements, such as advising Negroes that, it is at the bottom of life we must begin, and not at the top. And it is the Negro's lack of knowledge and experience in survival that caused him to seek first a seat in Congress or legislature rather than in land or industrial skill. And the opportunity to earn $1 in a factory just now is worth infinitely more than the opportunity to spend $1 in an opera house. He further told them to cast down your bucket where you are. Cast it down in making friends in every manly way of people, of all races by whom you are surrounded. He promised the white political constituencies that they would be surrounded by the most patient, faithful, law-abiding, and unresentful people that the world has seen. He believed that agitation of questions of social equality were the extremist folly, and that the access for Negroes would be gained by severe and constant struggle, and not by artificial forcing, and that while privileges of the law were deserved by Negroes, he felt it far more important that they be prepared for the exercise of these privileges. He wanted Negroes to wage their biggest struggle in themselves to overcome economic deprivation by applying themselves to occupational skills to improve their conditions and restore their self-respect. He helped to establish a Negro bank in New York City and had the support of George Washington Carver, a black agricultural chemist. He touted self-help and industrial training as ways to eventually break down prejudice. He earned the support of several presidents for his Atlanta address. He established the National Negro Business League to address the concern of Negro businesses. At Tuskegee, he directed his first student on how to build their own school with their own hands so they would learn how to organize and be independent. They had to raise their own food and livestock. Shortly, support in the form of money and supplies came to the school from all over the country. Many black men leaders of that day came to the school from all over the country. I said that, wanted to reiterate. Now, many black men leaders of that day politically aligned themselves against Booker T. Washington, claiming that he was an Uncle Tom, crouching up to whites to get on their best side, and that he was sacrificing Negroes' democratic rights by suggesting they give up political power and go straight to work to support themselves. His opponents further cried that Washington's program would create civil inferiority in Negroes. In 1900, Booker T. wrote his autobiography, Up from Slavery. His famous speech was recorded by many as the Atlanta Compromise. He received great media coverage and was designated by whites as the official leader of the Negro race. His entire career was devoted to teaching blacks to own and operate their own businesses and to shop among themselves. He dined in the White House with President Theodore Roosevelt and received an honorable degree from Harvard and was entertained by white royalty abroad for his work in helping the ex-slaves to improve themselves. A letter of congratulations sent to him by President Cleveland stated, "Your words cannot fail to delight and encourage all who wish well for your race. And if our colored fellow citizens do not from your utterance gather new hope and form new determinations to gain every valuable advantage offered by their citizenship, it will be strange indeed." Washington was a Christian. And I'm going to end this take right there for take 64. So stay tuned to Poem Praise 2 for take 65 of the Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man. We will finish up Booker T. Washington and also the conclusion. And coming next ahead is going to be Marcus Moses Garvey. So until then, I certainly want peace and blessings to be upon you and your family this day. And I will talk with you soon. Until then, later, y'all. Peace out and be blessed. From me to you on Poem Praise 2. Like, share, and comment. All right. Talk to you later.